What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Many AAA games in the last few years have been panned across the board for being bad experiences for the consumer. Whether it's aggressive monetization, rushed releases, or simple laziness, it seems like AAA games have been getting shafted for the last few years, and it doesn't seem like that pattern is going to stop anytime soon. But why is this happening? And why does the game industry see fit to make all of their IPs into horrible messes of code that feel like a goddamn fever dream every time you play? The simple answer to that question is greed. Many large game studios today have massive financial backing and are usually run by big companies, and knowing big companies, they really don't care about quality of their products as long as they get their check. This leads to a number of problems for developers, as they often aren't given enough time to make a quality product with the passion that they have, or are otherwise forced to put in aggressive monetization systems that want customers to buy their bullshit cosmetics. Cyberpunk was plagued with bugs on release despite being delayed numerous times and was hated on release by most of the gaming industry. The game was practically unplayable despite it being hyped and in development for over 8 years, albeit many of those years were with a smaller team. Cyberpunk promised to be one of, if not the best game ever made, but ultimately disappointed monumentally and left a sour taste in the mouths of people across the world. Battlefront 2 on launch had one of the most aggressive microtransaction systems ever seen in AAA games when it came out, and was similarly panned by the gaming community. The game was pay to win, and it killed any momentum that the game could have ever had of being great. It was a massive PR disaster for EA that proved they were only out to make a buck. Then there's games like Call of Duty, FIFA, and Assassin's Creed, all of which hit headlines every year they're released for being formulaic and boring. All of these games just feel like repackaged DLCs, and in some cases that's actually true. AC Mirage was supposed to be DLC for Valhalla, and similarly Modern Warfare 3 was also destined to be DLC before Activision realized they could slap a $70 price tag on it. There's not much to say about FIFA though. That game's shit no matter which way you cut it, and the fact that it hasn't changed in almost 10 years should let you know that it's pretty fucking garbage. The laziness exhibited by modern game companies is reflected in the reviews and scores that consumers give the product, which is largely negative for many AAA projects released nowadays. Modern Warfare 3 especially has a massive amount of negative reviews that reflect the public's overall attitude towards it. It feels lazy, and the campaign is a fucking joke. In contrast, indie games have been popping off recently, and their overall reception has been much better. The reason why indie games are so well received is due to the passion for the game developer's craft. Indie games aren't as motivated by money as big studios, so they're more inclined to make an enjoyable experience for the player, leading to more innovative and engaging games to play. Celeste has been consistently praised over the years for being one of the most polished and fun platformers out there, and I've personally clocked nearly 60 hours over 5+ playthroughs. The game doesn't have the 4K ray tracing shit that many games have today, but in reality, you don't need all that superficial shit. The graphics are purposefully not perfect, and that's okay, because the art direction takes the game to higher heights for me than any photorealistic RTX PC exploder I've ever played. It's a game that feels incredibly nostalgic, and its story delves into the topic of mental health, something many people struggle with today and resonate with. It's a game with an incredible platforming system that never gets old and has maintained a loyal fan base for years. Hades was and still is one of the best roguelikes ever made, with some of the most enjoyable gameplay in a game I've ever experienced. I put 250 hours in it and also explored why its sequel is incredible too. It has some of the most diverse gameplay I've ever seen, and there's a million different ways to go through the game. Want to sit there like a monkey with revenge boons? Go for it. Want to run an Eris rail and annihilate the bosses one by one? You got it. Its story is also far more compelling than most big budget games too. It's a journey that you'll end up actually caring about as a player, and you'll want to see Zagreus succeed in his mission. The game has a massive amount of love poured into it, and the community it built is absolutely incredible. Stardew Valley has an absolutely massive player space and found a way to make a simple farming game one of the most endlessly playable games I've ever had the pleasure of playing. I put 75 hours into this one. I've never had a positive experience with slice of life type games. I always thought they were too boring and just moved on. Stardew Valley, though, captivated me throughout, and I found myself playing for 10+ hours a day just farming and mingling with the townsfolk. Stardew Valley is so different from the games that I typically play, but its charm kept me coming back for more and made me genuinely care about the people in it, regardless of if they were bastards like Harvey. All of these games captivated me for multiple playthroughs and for countless hours, whereas many of the AAA games I play I find are so boring that I can't bother to go anywhere past the end credits. I played through Assassin's Creed Valhalla for some 60 hours, and when I reached the end, I immediately closed the game and uninstalled because it was so goddamn boring. I couldn't stand to do another 40 plus hours just to finish up a storyline I didn't care about. I couldn't get through much of Just Cause 4 for similar reasons, and even in games that I enjoyed, like Shadow of the Tomb Raider and Jedi Fallen Order, I only did one playthrough. I just never got the motivation to experience it again. I'd had my fun. A lot of the indie games I play, though, have me coming back at some point to do another playthrough. They have a certain charm and magic that makes them feel incredibly enjoyable to play, even after experiencing all they have to offer. That's not to say that there aren't any AAA games that don't deserve praise and admiration, though. My favorite game of all time has to be Red Dead Redemption 2, and I've smashed my head into that game for over 3 full playthroughs. Arthur is my favorite character in any game, and seeing him grow and understand his wrongdoings is some of the most heartbreaking shit I've ever seen in a video game. It has the most engaging story I've ever gone through, and it's absolutely stunning to boot. I couldn't give this game enough praise if I wanted to, and it's changed my entire perspective on what a game can be to the player. Elden Ring has been praised by almost the entire gaming community for transcending what's possible within a franchise. I've done over 8 playthroughs of it. It's a game that successfully took FromSoft's format and put it into a stunning open world, and although it has its usual FromSoft flaws, I'm willing to look past those. It's a difficult journey, and one that I enjoyed every step of the way, even though I was smashing my controller at times. Just Cause 3 is still an absolute classic, and I love the older Assassin's Creed titles. The Ezio trilogy in particular is exactly what the newer Assassin's Creed titles should have aimed for, an enigmatic character that players universally love, and one of the best stealth systems ever put in a game. And whilst Assassin's Creed has never been a perfect franchise, I think that many of us love the older games to death, partly because we played them when we were kids, and also because they were some of the most compelling games Ubisoft's ever created before they became the greediest corporation I've ever had the displeasure of hearing about. I bet I've played GTA 5 for over 1,000 hours across platforms, and I come back to it every once in a while to experience its story again. I think its online mode deserves the criticism it gets for being heavily monetized and overall just not good, but the original story is still well loved. I spent so much time with Michael, Trevor, and Franklin because they're so well developed. Rockstar did an incredible job giving all of them their own personality quirks and arcs for all of them that made them better people. It's one of the best heisting stories I've ever played, and I can only hope that GTA 6 can capture the same magic as its predecessor. Even Cyberpunk, which seems like it was doomed from release, has improved massively and has a large dedicated player base, including myself. It was a buggy mess on release, and because of that, many people wrote it off on release, but as I came back to it when it was in a much more polished state, I found I absolutely adored it and have played through it a ton. Especially with the addition of Phantom Liberty, Cyberpunk has been fully redeemed in my eyes, and it seems the same in the court of public opinion too. It just recently passed overwhelmingly positive on Steam, a far shot from its original mostly negative. The reason why these games are given a similar love to that of indie projects today is because they had passionate and talented dev teams that above all else wanted to make a fun game. When the chase for the dollar is put above everything else, you get terrible releases like Modern Warfare 3, and companies don't seem to be changing that trajectory anytime soon. The solution to this problem is to vote with your dollar. Don't buy games like Modern Warfare 3 or Skull and Bones, and don't let yourself be fooled by massive game companies that just want your money. Indie games are proof that in a heavily monetized and money-driven space that gems can still be made, and game studios are starting to realize that to make a profit, you have to make a good product as well. Helldivers 2 is one of the best monetization systems ever made in a game, and despite the PlayStation Network fiasco, is still a very enjoyable experience, and Baldur's Gate 3 still stands above many other AAA games because of its passionate dev team. It's ultimately about the amount of love and respect a developer gives the player. Indie devs show that passion and innovation are paramount in a game, and when mainstream studios rise and meet those standards, the results are spectacular. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.